Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Cookbook. I'm your host, Iris Goldfeder, and I am super excited about my guest today. She's been on before, and she's one of my favorite people because she has a way of reeling me in if I go too deep. So my rabbit holes that I go down. But anyway, I'm going to read her bio and bring her on. Okay, so Dr. Carey is a speaker, author, and psychologist, fondly known as the Sensible Psychologist. She works with teams, corporate audiences, and dedicated individuals, helping them learn how to skillfully navigate life's inevitable ups and downs. After 22 years in private practice, Dr. Carey brings the latest developments in psychology with easy-to-implement strategies to empower change, improve productivity, and decrease conflict, which we need right now. For reals. On a personal note, Dr. Carey works on her own program to create a life she really enjoys, and that is so important. One of her favorite pastimes is baking muffins. Ask her for your favorite flavor and she'll make them for you. So without further ado, let's re-meet Dr. Carey. Hi.
Hi guys. It's nice to be back, Iris. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. And we were laughing because I had reboot, and so this is take 2 of this, but I was late because I was looking for Dr. Carey's book. And it's a self-help book, but it's not the kind where you have to read the whole thing. It's you can go to a specific chapter. So it's a wonderful book. Anyway, so I was looking for it so that I could show it all to you. And I'm where the hell is it? So I call my wife at work and she's I have it, because she always steals my book. So there you have it. But Dr. Carey has a copy and we'll show you later. But so before all this, we were talking about muffins and scones and really cool things. So, so I'm jealous that I missed the Dames get together. We're in a group called, you always hear me talk about the Dames. So,
yeah.
And I am definitely jealous about that, because I would have I read that and I was damn. But I love that you did that. And I don't know. So we forgot what we talked about last time, so we're winging it. So we're just going to wing it.
Oh, we're going to talk about business and life and the intersection of why psychology is worth thinking about with both business and life. And
yes.
I actually think if we use so the business group that we both belong to, it's called the Dames. It's awesome. It's for, high performing female entrepreneurs. And it just is a great place to get together and enjoy each other's company and also talk shop. But they do these happier hours, and sometimes they're at people's offices. And this past week it was at my house. And since this is the Cookbook podcast, I can share that I was asked to make a savory scone, and we made bacon cheddar scone bites. So when Iris comes to Colorado the next time, she gets to pick her flavor, and she can update everybody on the podcast about what she picked.
Yes, I will bring them home and have them on the next one. So, and I'm actually going to the Chicago Happier Hour tomorrow. Awesome. This is going to air in 5 weeks, but yeah, I'm driving up because it's an hour and a half away. I'm going to stay in Chicago for the night, and Annie and I are going to go to dinner and, do all the things. But I love that it's that close, right? Because there's nothing here in Indiana, and I don't think there ever will be.
But these are the things, right? Is making commitments and showing up and deepening relationships. Whether you're doing that for your work or for your personal life, it's actually, that is the thing. It's interesting. I was taking a look at the latest results. There's a longitudinal study out of Harvard that started over 100 years ago. And it first started with studying students who went to Harvard, and then it was studying their families. And then they expanded the reach of the study to folks who are living in the tenements in Boston. And now the study is over 100 years old, and it's taken a look at the original people, plus their families, plus their families, plus their grandkids, plus their great-grandkids.
Wow.
It's really cool. But 100 years of study, and you know what they find?
Nothing's changed.
No, connection is the thing that makes us happy.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
At the end of the day, it's the quality of our relationships that improves the quality of our life.
And I can totally see that, because to me, connecting is like,
it's everything.
It is. It's like, and connecting with the right people, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there are some people you connect with and you're like, okay, maybe not. But when you connect with the right people,
it makes a huge difference.
Huge. You know, and I was talking to, who was I talking to? Was it Kim? I was talking to Kim Russo last night, because she does all of my design work. So like any of my, you know, logo, brand work. I promised her that she would be like the 100th guest, because we're coming up to like our 100th, you know, episode, which is insane, but we are. And she's like, promise me that'll be your 100th guest. And I said, yes, absolutely. But we started talking about, you know, the dames and the community and the connections. And Kim and I, you know, we met, God, it's like 2 years now. And we instantly, you know, clicked over our woo, over our, like, all of the things, right? But we just like, we just clicked. And I went to Charleston last year to do a photo shoot for my website, because my wife was going down anyway. And I was like, well, I may as well just go down. And, you know, she knew a great photographer. And I said, let me do it here. Not that there aren't good photographers here. There are.
Sure. But
the backdrop and the scenery was just like, I was like, yeah, I'll do it there. And then we got even closer, because we spent like 5 days together, you know, because I was there for like 5 days. And so that, you know, deepened it. And then there were a couple of other dames, you know, there as well that, you know, I saw. But Kim and my relationship is different. But we were talking about that. And then we were talking about I was talking to somebody today about the big energy. So the conference that we go to, the Funference, right? I went for the first time last year. And when you put all of these powerhouse women under one roof, and it's like 100 women who are badass business owners. They're just badass, right? We're all just badass in our own way. And you have all of that energy under one roof. It is a lot. I mean, me, Ms. Extrovert, had to go to my room.
I consider myself pretty extroverted, and I had to take really deliberate breaks. Yeah. And then I would take a break and take a break solo. Oftentimes at a conference, I'll take a break with a friend. Mm-hmm. This was like, no, take a break solo, get my feet back under me, and then head back in. And I do think that this is important, right? This notion of relationships and the quality of relationships. It's not just for extroverts. It's actually for introverts too. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yes.
Whether you're introverted or extroverted, the quality of your relationships, and typically the quality of your relationships is based on how well do you communicate? How well do you set boundaries, right? Like, how much can you share interests with people, and how clear can you be on what your values are, so that then it's easy to meet other people and be like, oh my gosh, they're interested in the same thing, or they value the same thing. And then it makes the relationship easier. But so this is true for introverts and for the extroverts, not just the extroverts.
But as an extrovert, is it doing it again? It's doing it again. As an extrovert, it throws me. Right, because I've never like in that position to where it was like, this is too much, or this is like, whoa, I need a break. And it was funny because I went to my room and somebody was talking. I forgot who it was, but I was like, I can't. So I went up to the room and it was 3:00 our time, 5:00 here. And I called my wife. She was at work. And I was like, hi. And she goes, aren't you supposed to be in a conference?
Wrong?
And I said, I'm peopled out.
Yeah.
And she's like, who are you? And what have you done with my wife? And I said, I know. I was like, but the energy is like, holy, I've never been around this much amazing. And it's not bad energy. It was just like a lot. It was big, like that song, big energy, you know, it was big energy. I mean, and I wasn't used to that. After I had my breather and I came back down, I was like, okay, because I've never had to take a break before, right? And it was just like so amazing to me. I was like, wow, I kind of like rebooted and now I'm ready to go. And, you know, here we go. But I love the thing with the introverts too, because a lot of introverts that I know feel very, they almost wish that they could be an extrovert. And to me, it's like, you know, if you are who you are and how you are, you should embrace that rather than, I think, right? Rather than wanting to be something else, because if that makes you uncomfortable, then you're never going to be comfortable. If you're trying to do something that's that far out of your.
And I think it's also anytime we're pressuring people to be someone who they're not, first of all, if you're the person doing the pressuring, you're missing the opportunity to really actually connect with the person who's in front of you.
Yep.
Instead of trying to connect with the version of them that you're sort of pushing them into. But then if you're the person who's responding to all of that pressure by trying to become someone that you're not, inherently then all of your connections are going to be a little more shallow because it's not actually going to be you.
Right. It's not. And I think, and I don't know if we talked about this before, but I know you and I have talked about this. When you are your inauthentic self, you're attracting the people that are attracted to your inauthentic self. So you're not attracting the right people to you, right? When you're your authentic self, you're attracting the people that really want to know you, like the true you. And that's one of the, I'm going to be doing a keynote, and Whitney made we're working on my speaker kit. I'm like so excited. But I'm going to start speaking because I think it's really, there are so many business owners that aren't comfortable being authentic. And, you know, when you're the face of the business, when you're that solopreneur, you have to have to be able to be authentic. And if you're not, then you need to look and say, why don't I feel that I can be? Like, I don't want to say, what don't I like about myself, but it's like, what about me doesn't feel okay to be authentic? And
I think a lot of times it's really interesting because sometimes people hide their strengths and sometimes people hide their weaknesses. Mm-hmm. And I hate to break to everybody. Actually, it's just the opposite. I'm thrilled to break it to everybody that we all have a unique compilation of strengths and weaknesses. And if we're dissolving ourselves down to just one characteristic, we're missing all of our nuance. And the joy in getting to know people is getting to know their nuance.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And then to figure out where do your nuances align? And then if you want to have super authentic connections, the easiest way to do that, interestingly, is to be authentically connected to yourself. I know that sounds really cheesy, but I swear, like every now and again, I have a very cheesy toolbox. Can you see it? Here's my very cheesy toolbox. It's purple and sparkly and imaginary. But in the very cheesy toolbox, sometimes those are really good techniques. And one of the things that I would say is getting to know yourself and really being in acceptance. And I don't mean approval. Acceptance just means, yes, this is what is, right? Approval is, ooh, I like what is, right? Acceptance is just noticing what's working and what's not working. How is something being received? And to actually take a look at your strengths and weaknesses and be in acceptance of them, once you, number one, are willing to label them and identify them, but number two, be in acceptance of them, then you have all of this choice But if you're spending a bunch of time shoving everything down, what happens is that stuff tends to fester and then explode at really inopportune times. So, and also, if you already know what your strengths and weaknesses are, then when somebody is pushing on one of your historically triggery buttons, they can push and you're like, oh no, I disconnected that a while ago because I already know that's a weakness of mine.
Right.
You're just figuring that out. Weird. But that's that would be kind of one of my psychology tricks and tips that I would talk about is like, how can you do a deep dive into who you actually are? And if there's places where you realize like, oh, I don't actually really like who I am, or I don't really like that behavior, then you have a choice to change it, but you're unlikely to change it if you're unwilling to take a look at what's going on.
Right. Well, I would say mirrors are hard to look in, right?
Sure.
For us. But I think that one of my triggers, and it was so funny, I was thinking about this a few weeks ago, was because a friend of mine did it, and I was like, that doesn't bother me anymore. And it was like so weird. So when I was young, I felt very damaged, very like there was, a lot wrong with me. It's okay. I had a really hard, childhood.
You did.
And they would be like Iris the virus. And so I would feel that I was this bad thing or, this virus.
Small, right? Like it isn't like Iris is Iris and she's awesome. That's a whole different way to say that. Right.
So it was like the virus thing. And somebody said it joking around. And they something like, she gets around so much, whatever, Iris the virus, and I just like kind of looked at
Iris the virus.
Yeah. I mean, it's a group of people that I don't hang out with often, but the fact that it was said and I didn't have like the visceral reaction that I used to, because it used to really hurt me because that's how I felt.
Yeah.
And so, I kind of like laughed at it. But even besides that, like I was, I remember thinking to myself, that doesn't even bother me anymore.
Right. Because it's not attached. Right?
It's like not attached. And I'm not a virus. I mean, yes, I get around and yes, I, whatever, but I'm pretty fucking awesome. And I know at the end of the day, there are days that, and I think I told you this, I wake up every morning and I look in the mirror and I'm like, hey, you, I love you. You go have a great day. Mm-hmm. And there are days that I feel it in my bones and there are other days that I don't, and I still say it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to not say it. I don't, because we deserve that every day. And I think it was like last Thursday was just, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the clock. I keep seeing the same, like the duplicate numbers on the clock since yesterday. So it's been interesting. But I was just having an off day last week. It was just like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Like, why am I doing what I'm doing? And I love what I do. Like, I absolutely love what I do and who I do it for. But it was just one of those days that, like, I woke up, I didn't want to do anything. I didn't feel like doing anything. I had a people that day. I didn't feel like peopling. I wanted my assistant to cancel all my appointments. Like, I was just like in that kind of a mood. And I woke up and I looked in the mirror and I was like, hey, you, I love you. Go have a great fucking day. I'm going to hop in the shower. And that's just kind of how I felt. And then I started thinking about it, like at about, I think it was like around 2:00. It was after lunch. And I was like, why am I doing what I'm doing? And it was like, because I love my clients.
Yeah.
I love what I do. And it was like, I had about a 7-hour period that it was just like, bleh. And then everything came back. It was like, because I love this client and I love what we're doing for this client. And I love the results that we're getting for them. And I love, 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 love. And so all of the blah went away.
All of a sudden you're boosted, right? Like everything feels like you're reanimated. This is really good.
It was like totally like a reboot. And I was like, okay, that was pretty cool. I can wake up like that. And if it ends up like this, I'm fine, with that, because we're going to have days, right? Go
And
ahead.
I think that that's one of the things that I talk about all the time. I feel like we've made a huge mistake in the self-help industry because we're essentially assuring people that if they just think hard enough or buy a fancy enough crystal or, fill in the blank, that they're going to have a problem-free life. And that isn't true.
No.
What's true is that life inevitably is up and down, and it's interesting, and sometimes it's painful, and sometimes it's astonishing, right? And our job, my opinion, our job is to show up and enjoy the life that we have and work with what we have, both those strengths and those weaknesses, work with what we have and just take even one step further, right? And it's one of those things where that then gives you some power. And once we're empowered, like as a species, empowered humans do really good things.
Oh, 100%. I mean, and I told you about, I have a client who lives in Denver who I keep forgetting. I need to introduce you to because you're into the same, you're like into the same thing. But she just got back from Peru and she did this like crazy ass, I think I told you about it, like an 80-mile hike, and she was going like 14,000 feet and, all the things. And it was like, oh my God. And that's right. That's the last time we talked because it was right before she was leaving. I think she was getting acclimated to go. And now she's back. I haven't bugged her yet because she like just got home, but I'm like, I want to hear like all the things because I've been watching the pictures. But she's somebody who just embraces life, and she has this amazing work-life balance that she has created because, it's her business and she, does whatever and she has a certain goal that she wants to hit and we're helping her hit that goal.
Yeah.
And, to me, it's like, that's the favorite part of my job, knowing that our efforts are going to help her to be able to do her thing that she wants to do, right? She's doing that because of her, I'm not taking all the credit. She's amazing. She's an amazing coach. She's an amazing speaker. She's an amazing human. But to be able to play a part in, helping her be able to do that, to me, that's like the best part of my job. I had to do a 3-minute talk at Indiana's local AWBO. It's like NAWBO, but cut down to a local thing. And I had to talk about what I do in 3 minutes.
Oh,
can it be done? There's video. I did it, which was amazing because I was like, how am I gonna? Because I had a little presentation, and I was like, and somebody said, just be you and tell a story, and I was like, in 3 minutes, have you met me? But I did it. But one of the things that changed the trajectory of how I do, of the lens that I see things through, I guess, is, I think it was like 3-4 years ago, like locally, I always, drop off holiday presents, right?
Sure.
And I was dropping off a present, and one of my clients, that I was dropping off for said, wait a minute, I have something for you. I was like, you didn't have to get me anything. And he was like, no, I did. So he comes out with this like ginormous basket. It was like one of the biggest baskets I've ever seen with like all of this stuff in it. And I was like, you did not have to do that. And he said, I did because I want you to understand that what you do isn't lost on me.
Oh.
And I said, thank you, but what do you mean? And he said, it's not lost on me that, in part of what you do, my guys get to put food on their tables.
Right. Yeah.
And it was just like shit, right?
Yeah,
like
it's a hard toucher.
Wow, thank you, so much. And then I got in the car and I went, fuck, that's like a lot of responsibility, right? Like it was just like, oh my God, that's so much. My first thought was like, it's so much responsibility. But then it was like, what we do matters. As marketers, what we do matters. So not that I never thought that it mattered, but for me, it was like they needed help. We built a website, we did SEO. We made sure that their business grew, but that added another layer onto their business growing.
Yeah.
And so I view things from a completely different lens than I did before that. And I take what I do very seriously, and I don't look like I don't just work with anybody because of that, because, it's a huge responsibility. Yes, I'm getting paid for it, but it's still a huge responsibility. And if I don't think that I can help somebody, I'm not going to work with them.
Right.
Because I'm doing a disservice to them and a disservice to myself. So,
and that's that going back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago. It's getting clear about what you're good at and getting clear about what isn't your preference and maybe even what you aren't good at, right? We were talking off air about our strengths, and you can sing and I am tone deaf. And understanding this means that I sing alone by myself in my car. I don't torment people with my voice.
But see, that's the thing. It's like, you can sing. You may see, and I tell this to so many people. They're like, oh, like my wife is like, I can't sing. I'm like, everybody can sing.
No, Iris, I actually cannot sing in tune, I guess is a better way to put it. I can't tell when I'm out of tune.
Gotcha.
But what's fun about it, right, is you can come into town in October and ask me for muffins and I'll make you your favorite flavor. Right?
Yeah.
And if you want to go to karaoke, I'll go with you and I'll be entertaining, but I will not, and that's fine. But I will enjoy the heck out of you singing. And this is the thing, is letting people be good at what they're good at and letting yourself be good at what you're good at and not being afraid to say like, oh, maybe I'm not quite as good at that. And then it's also, it's looking at the stories that we tell ourselves and that we tell other people. So this week, actually, I'm sending out this mid-year habits workbook to my clients. I'm happy to send it to your folks if anybody wants. They can. You'll put my contact info at the end of this, and
absolutely.
They can just shoot me an email whenever, and I'll send you the workbook. It's short, it's easy, it's helpful. But I was checking myself because I was like, well, how am I doing on my habits? Right? So this isn't just a pointy finger conversation about what you should be doing with your habits. Like, hey, let's take a peek. So I took a peek and I had been telling myself the story that I was out of time to meditate. I didn't have any time to meditate. Now, this is something that's really important to me. It's important to my values. I think it's important for my brain. I also think it's important for me not to be hypocritical. And so when I'm telling my clients to be more mindful, I should probably be setting aside some mindfulness time for myself, right? All these things. But I was telling myself this story. I don't have time, especially in the mornings, to do that. Except for then I actually slowed down and took a look at my habits. And what was I doing in the morning? I was getting on my phone. I was checking my news feed. I was reading advice columns. I really do think Dear Abby's really very fun. From a psychology point of view, it's fun for me. But
so you're reading Dear Abby?
I'm reading Dear Abby.
That's amazing, because that was like, I remember when she was alive and she was actually writing them.
Kind of crazy, right? And now there's a couple of different.
It's actually Dear Abby writing it. I thought she passed away.
I don't know if it's the same one. I think it's maybe her daughter or something. Anyway,
it's got to be, because I remember she died. Wow. Yeah. Okay, we'll have to talk about that.
She was like 100 years old, like 100 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
But so I'm reading my news feed. I'm essentially sunk into my phone.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really a great way to start your day, right? And I was realizing, I was sort of tracking how much time I was wasting in the morning, pressing snooze, being on my news feed, doing silly things like reading advice columns, right? It was about 22 minutes. I only need about 10 minutes to meditate. So this story that I've been telling myself, I don't have time, is actually not true. And now here's the big trick. So there's a judgment path I could have gone down, and there's an assessment path, which is what I'm going to encourage people to go down. The judgment path is, I'm so ridiculous. I can't believe I'm doing this. I should know better, right? Judgment, bad, bad, bad. Assessment is, here's how I'm spending my mornings. Is this working for me? Does this make me feel proud of myself? Does this help me move towards the type of day I want to create? Does this resonate? Is this in alignment with who I want to be? And the answer was, no, not so much. So
interesting.
I went on my phone. I disconnected my newsfeed.
Wow.
And I feel pretty great about it. And I set my alarm for a little bit earlier because I am acknowledging the reality of how long it takes me to wake up. It takes me a little longer these days than it did when I was, say, 20. I have a softer start in the morning. And I set my alarm a little earlier.
This side hurts. I'm going to get a bowl of floor. I'm going to roll over on this side for a minute just to stretch. Yeah. Okay.
And now I get up and I helped myself, right? Like, so a piece of this isn't just muscling through, because if I was trying to muscle through and my news feed was actually still present on my phone, I would just get hooked back in, right? So disconnecting it from my phone changes my approach. Now I'm still informed about the world. I have my other sources and all that, but I'm not hooked into essentially garbage content first thing in the morning.
Wow, that's not
a
bad idea.
Yeah, setting up my days, and I'm taking a couple of minutes to be mindful, to write out what I'm grateful for, and to write out my priorities for the day. And holy cow, does it set my day up differently. It's really pretty cool.
Interesting.
Yeah. And to enable it to happen, I also set an alarm at night for when I need to get off the couch and go to bed. So again, it's not cheating to use shortcuts. Please use shortcuts. Use the technology of our phone for good, to help yourself, and check yourself on things that you're doing that you've gotten sucked into just because. Right?
Interesting.
Yeah. So these days, we always used to talk about peer pressure when you and I were growing up, but these days our pressures are actually often external sources that we aren't even necessarily aware are pressuring us into behaving in certain ways.
And I hear you say that. And so my morning routine, it's so funny because I'm not a journaler. Mm-hmm. So my friend Nina Farif and I write these 3 things we're grateful for every morning. So we have a little thread going, and I was slacking on it for a while, but I started again this morning. But for me in the morning, and my mindfulness coach is like, you could be meditating. I'm like, I know, but I need my brain to go. So the first thing I do is there are these New York Times games. Mm-hmm. So it's connections and Wordle and the mini thing that I do with a friend of mine. We do this every morning together. Yeah. And then I'll do, there's this new thing called Strands. And because for me, it's I want to keep my brain, I want to get my brain going first thing in the morning. Yes. Yeah. My aunt is in a memory unit. Mm-hmm. And that scares the shit out of me. So for me, it's first thing I wake up, right? So for me, that's my thing.
I'm going to take care of my brain first thing in the morning.
100%. I'm going to get that going. And then, so I had mindfulness today. I go to mindfulness once a week. So I know for sure I'm going to meditate at least once a week. Mm-hmm. And in the nice weather, I get to walk outside barefoot. My wife will not walk barefoot. I'm like, you need to connect to the earth. She's like, ugh, I can't. It's like she'll walk on sand. She won't walk on grass. It's the funniest thing. And I love walking on grass. To me, it's just, I feel so connected to everything.
Your wife and I share that. I will walk on sand, but you cannot make me walk on grass. Do not make me. My husband, on the other hand, is like, walking on grass is so good for you. It's so grounding. It's so amazing. Yeah. I'm like, nope, I like shoes.
Sand. That's so funny. You two need to meet one of these days. But so I walk out here, and we have the forest back here. So as I'm walking, I'm looking at what I'm connecting to.
Yeah.
And it's really. Did you see the movie Avatar?
Yeah.
So the Na'vi and how everything is connected in the tree of life and everything is. Yep. That's how I feel. I know in my heart that we're all connected. We are all connected through these invisible, like
energetic lines, right?
Yeah, like lines, right? Like these fields and these circuits. That's what I'm looking for, right? So there's this energetic circuit that we're all connected to, and when I'm out here and I get to look at this, because I can't do it in the winter, it's too cold to walk out there barefoot, but I get to do that, and I get to outside watch the hummingbirds come to the hummingbird feeder and watch the cardinals go to their nest, and it's like this amazing, like I've always been very drawn to nature, like that's always been, but I'm not a hiker.
But doesn't it just open you up? Right?
100%. 100%.
It's interesting how many invitations we're getting these days to contract, right? To be against people, to be against some opinion, to be outraged, right? Like we have all of these invitations to contract and to shove people away. And interestingly, we feel better, like as a whole species, when we open up. Right.
And when you connect.
Yeah.
And it's like we're all, I don't want to get political, but I'm not going to get political. But no, but, I just feel that it says I'm offline, you froze. And now I'm back online. Okay.
You're back. You froze for a sec.
Yeah, I've been having so many technical issues, and they sent me a new modem, and I'm going to have a conversation with them on some stuff. But anyway, I think that
all that, right? It's easy. You can edit all that.
But yeah, Kofi he'll clean that piece up. We're not starting over. No, but and I know I've asked you this before. But in the vein of what we're talking about, right? So entrepreneurs and people thinking about entrepreneurs, listen to this. In light of what we're talking about, like what advice do you have for someone thinking about becoming an entrepreneur? Because we always talk about, like people are like, oh, make sure you have enough money, but I think there's a certain mindset that you need to be in. And I think that with your background, I think you can answer this much differently than, people usually do.
I really agree. The mindset of being an entrepreneur is certainly different than the mindset of being an employee. And there's pros and cons to both. And there's major strengths and weaknesses to both. But when you're an entrepreneur, oftentimes, particularly in the beginning of your business, you're going to need to wear hats that you wouldn't ordinarily put on. Right. And so having some level of flexibility and also some level of humility. What actually are hats that you can put on that aren't your favorite, but you're capable of doing? And what are things that if you put on that hat, you're likely to just screw it up, right? And so those are the hats that you want to outsource and delegate. But for the most part, and again, particularly when you're in startup mode, you're going to be putting on hats that you never thought that you would put on, right? You might be, what's a good business example of one of your listeners, do you think?
Coaches.
Okay. Yeah. If you're going to be a coach, let's say you want to be a specialty coach about a certain issue in the world, and you have a real ton of expertise on that. You might even have a degree in it. It's awesome. And you're also going to need to be the marketer. You're going to need to be the bookkeeper. You're going to need to be the person who negotiates a lease. You might need to be the person who figures out your PR, puts together your speaker kit, all of those things that most likely you don't have any knowledge about. You have this lovely specialized knowledge and you can really help people in this, but you're going to have about, if you think of yourself as you have a 1-lane road and you've got this dialed, you're going to have an 11-lane San Diego freeway that you're going to need to cover. So that flexibility, I think, is a really big component. And part of the flexibility is getting very honest with yourself. And this is back to that comment that I made earlier about doing an assessment instead of being in judgment. Do an assessment. what else do I actually need to do to make this business successful? And do I need help there? Or is this something that maybe it's not my favorite, but I can learn enough to be able to do this well for the time being?
Wow. That is so good. And it's so true because like I've always known like my weakness is money. I cannot bookkeep, I'm AP, AR, and I screwed a couple of things up last year, big time. I mean, I did. There was something, I was figuring out, this is like hilarious. So I was working with a client and I'm just going to throw out like 13,000. And it was like, okay, so 2.9, or let's just make it easier, 3% of 30,000, because we were trying to figure out, how much Stripe was going to take, because they take 2.9% out, whatever. And I was like, oh my God, that's like $3,000. That's insane. That's crazy. So I called up my accountant and I was like, we need to look at a different software because, 2.9% is like almost $3,000. And she's like, don't math. And I said, what do you mean? She's like, it's like $297. She goes, move the zero. And I went, oh, okay. And so I called my client back and I'm like, so we're both idiots.
I shouldn't have mathed. I'm so sorry.
Right. But it was just so funny. Don't math. I was like, that's why I have you. She goes, don't even have those conversations. She goes, call me before you even have. And I was like, okay, you're right. But my client and I laughed because it was just like, oh, okay. Then it's okay to, whatever. I mean, it's still pretty expensive, but it's way better than, $3,000. So,
but the cool thing, right, with that mindset is understanding what you bring to the table, and it's truly a strength of yours, and then understanding what you bring to the table, and it's underdeveloped, it's a weakness, but it's a skill and it's something that you can learn and develop versus something that you don't bring to the table and you're unlikely to do it well, right? For you, it sounds like math, not the thing. For me, it's a lot of tech. And it's really been one of the most lovely things in the last couple of years is that now, I've long been 22 and a half years now, a solo practitioner, and have in the last couple of years, I've hired a virtual assistant. And it's been a game changer for me in part because the skills that she brings to the table are the exact things that not only do I not enjoy doing, but I also am no good at doing them. And it is wonderful. The symbiosis is fantastic. And it then frees me up to do more of what I'm good at. Right. And I send her projects and I'm always apologetic because I'm like, this sounds terrible. And she's like, I love doing this. Right. Like, you are very, okay, that's very interesting to me. But it really does make a difference to understand that. And in the beginning, especially if you're feeling pinched for finances, in the beginning, really narrow down what do you have to delegate and what are the things that you can take a little bit of extra time and dig in and learn. Because that's the other really cool thing is something that we don't know doesn't necessarily have to be something that we're terrible at. And it doesn't necessarily have to be something we're afraid of. It can just be something we don't know. And then we can try it out and know better how to do it next time. Right. I mean, 100%. And like for me, that's math. Now I know if I'm going to be, and it sounds funny, but now it's like, oh, okay, if it's not this, it's like, because certain math I'm really good at, percentages and stuff, I wasn't. So that's one thing. And I think, like if you would have told me, and Kofi laughs at this, but if you would have told me, 2.5 years ago that I would have a podcast, I would say you're out of your mind. I'm an entertainer, I sing, I do all the things, but I never in a million years thought about this or public speaking or, all of these things that, are going to be new and happening in the next, whatever, coming up. And it's like,
talking used to be my worst thing. Yeah. I could sing in front of like 5,000 people and it doesn't even faze me because you can't see them. And if they're, but if I sang in front of 20 people, it would freak me out because I know that they are listening and they are right. And the same thing with speaking. Mm-hmm. I say a lot, and that's one of the things that I've been working on. And when I counted 7 in my 3-minute presentation.
Yeah.
And and my wife, said they were fine. Like, sometimes
it's way better than 17, right?
Right.
Nice.
Yes, I did better than I thought. But it was just so interesting that, that's not my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. My comfort zone is with, a guitar or somebody or a band behind me or whatever, but to speak to people and, so doing that and, pushing myself and watching it and not cringing was amazing. Yeah. This I've been doing and I can, so I have a TV show now because of this. And this is not because of this, but, because this is comfortable for me.
But look at how your story changed. Public speaking used to be associated with a story that said it was bad and scary and you weren't good at it and you didn't know how to do it and it was going to be really intimidating. And now your story is public speaking can be really fun. Public speaking is great for my business. I'm starting to get good at this. Hey, I'm down to 7 ums. This is pretty rad. So notice that the story changed as you improved in the skill.
Wow. Interesting.
And this is one of the things. So I'm always talking to people. I'll draw this graph where if you're starting low and you want to get to a higher level of something, we are often waiting down at this low point for motivation to come in. We're waiting for confidence. We're waiting for motivation. We're waiting to feel inspired. But the funny thing is motivation, confidence, and inspiration come after you've already gotten up to the next level.
Wow.
Motivation comes. Behavior changes emotions. Emotions doesn't typically change behavior. So if you want to feel better about something, almost 100% of the time, if you come and talk to me about wanting to feel better about something, I'm going to ask you what you're willing to do differently.
Ooh.
Because action is the thing that creates the emotion that you wish to see. If we're waiting and waiting and waiting for the emotion to come to, sort of lift us up so that then we can go to the next level, you're going to be waiting a really long time because that isn't how it happens. But here's the super cool thing, Iris. It only takes a few minutes. You don't have to get to total mastery over years at a time. Even just a few minutes of starting something, you'll get a little bit of that motivation, and that then gets the ball rolling. This is why there's a whole energy management system that's like, I think it's called like the 5 or something like that, but it's essentially, I think it's called like the 5-minute solution, I think is maybe even the name of a book about this. But at the end of the day, the summary is the thing you're really afraid of, set a timer, start 5 minutes on it.
Wow.
And then that 5 minutes almost always turns into 15, which can turn into 50, which can turn into 5 months, right? But that 5 minutes, oh my gosh, that getting to that first minute is so hard because it feels so scary, in part because that's the story we're telling ourselves, because we are waiting for the feeling, but the feeling doesn't come until after we start moving.
Wow. I mean, yeah. Wow. It's so funny because there's, so many different perspectives on things, not thing. And when I hear you say that, it's like, it's obvious, right? It's like, that's so obvious. Like how do you not see that? But we don't see that.
Well, we don't see it in part because the feelings feel so big in our bodies, and then the thoughts are so loud in our heads that we tend to believe them both. We tend to believe, oh my gosh, we're having this strong feeling. I I should listen to it, or I'm having this terrible negative thought, I should really pay attention to it. And the thing that's interesting is sometimes your job is just to notice, like, oh yeah, this is really scary. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of confidence about this. Okay. I'm going to go try it anyway. And now, if you don't have a lot of confidence in something that's super dangerous, like, slow down, do something different, right?
If you're going to ride down a mountain on a bike, maybe don't go down that giant hill right away. It's so funny because it's like, I look at, and for me, and I know people listening to this, have gone through it. And I love when my hummingbird comes like right at the right, at the right moment. But it's like the answers are all there, and they're not all easy. I don't want to say that they're all easy, but like when, to hear you talk about it, it's like, oh, duh, that's, it makes it so obvious because I think of all of the things. So, last year we were at Fun Friends. I did the karaoke thing, to whatever. And
she did awesome, by the way, guys. She did great.
Thank you.
I was there. I heard it. I was amazed.
Well, what was funny was, the altitude kicked my ass.
Yeah.
So the original song that I was going to start with was The Story by Brandi Carlile, because I love her and I love that song is just, to me, like, it's like, it just hits my heart. But the note wasn't there because of the altitude.
Yeah.
And, Ron was like, it's there, you just got it. And I'm like, it's not. Like, I thought I lost it forever, but I didn't. It was the altitude. So I chose a different song. But, the next day, and it was fun, and I was in my element because get me on a stage and I'm, fine. But I never thought of it in a speaking, from a speaking angle. And so the next day, some LB came up to me and she's like, "You need to be on a stage." And so I said, "I was last night." And she goes, "No, you need to be on a stage." And I went, "Oh." She's like, "You're so encouraging." So, like all these things. And I went, okay. And I thought about it, and then I went, okay, whatever. And then I was asked to be on what's called the VC Europe X, and they wanted me to do like a marketing talk. And I'm like, okay, because it was like this, right? It's virtual. That's easy. Okay, no problem. So I did it. And it went over really, really well. And then they asked me to do the keynote about LGBTQIA plus businesses, because all of these conferences are international, and a lot of the countries aren't accepting of LGBTQIA plus people. So if they're business owners, how do they run a business and be authentic without getting killed, right? So there's like a, and I'm always like, don't do anything dangerous. Like if you want to come out, great. If it's going to get you killed, don't do it. Don't. And then somebody asked me to speak somewhere here locally, and I was like, I'm not ready yet. And they said, yeah, you are. And I said, I'm not. And they were kind of taken back that I said no. I said, but I said, I don't want to say yes and then not be able to give you 100%.
Yeah.
And if I do that now, I'm not going to be able to give 100% because I don't feel comfortable. I'm not ready. Yep. So that's what I've been, working on. And I think recognizing, like what you said, recognize the things that you can do and take that first step. Yep. Do that first step. So for me, it's like a 10-minute presentation at BNI. Yep. I got that down, bam. So that's 10 minutes, right? And then I do another 10-minute one. So that's like another, and I add and add. And then I had like the 3-minute thing, that was more challenging than a 10-minute thing, because how do I explain all my marketing solutions and what I do for my clients in 3 minutes?
That's hard.
But I did it. So to me, it was like, ooh, I'm getting there. I'm getting to the point where I will be ready soon. And that's why I had Whitney, where she's working on a speaker kit for me, Whitney McDuff, amazing. And, I know that, this time next year I'll be speaking and I'll be confident about it. And it's kind of cool. So
it's very cool. I think it's super exciting.
Yeah. And so I guess I would tell people, don't be afraid to try things.
Yeah. Don't sell yourself short. Try things and see how it goes. And that, there's a reason that people refer to me as the sensible psychologist, is because psychology actually, in my opinion, but psychology well applied should help people enjoy their life better. And we have great information about small things that you can do that make a really big difference. And that's what I'm looking to get out in the world, right? Is there's great information, small changes you can make that make a really, truly big difference.
Yeah. And I want to talk about you, but we're almost at an hour, which is like nuts.
Okay.
This always happens.
Do you want to
talk about your book? Huh?
Here's the book.
So it is Self-Help on the Go. And the cool thing about it is there's like, can you open it up and just kind of give an idea on what I'm talking about? So there are chapters for what you're going through that day. So it's not just like, I love me, you love me, right? So it's like, there you go.
So you open, so you thumb to the chapter. This chapter it's chapter 5 called Feel Happier Today. And there's 10 tips in there that you can implement right away to improve happiness. So but each tip you just read a page, it's on a page spread, and then you close the book and you put it down and you move on.
Until your wife steals it.
Until your wife steals it and brings it to work, which is darling. I think secretly she just really wanted me to send her an autographed copy of my book, which I will do later.
You may not be wrong. You actually might not be wrong.
But she's very clever.
She's an engineer, so there's that.
But this is the book that my clients asked me to write, because they kept coming in and very generously handing me 200-page self-help books and saying, I don't want to read 200 pages about anger management. I just need to know what to do the next time my boss is a jerk.
Right.
And so there's a chapter in here on communication. There's a chapter in here on anger management. Each one has 10 tips, most of which you apply right in the moment. And you thumb to the chapter you need, thumb through a couple of tips, read which one that you're going to try and apply that day, give it a shot. Open it back up when you need to.
Yeah, it's great. And I, although like the last couple of times I've reached for it, it hasn't been here. But when you and I first met last year, and you sent me the book and I started thumbing through it, I was like, this is amazing. Because it's not, when you get those, what was the one in the 70s was like, I love me, you love me, or something. It was one of those, and I can't tell you how many, self-help books that they didn't help. But anyway, and I remember looking at your book and just looking at all the different, chapters per se and going, this is like amazing, because there's something for everything. There's something for every pretty much emotion that you're going to go through. And
that is the goal.
And there are 10 tips that you can right there implement, and you feel better. You just feel better. And I think that, so everyone needs to get it. So we'll scroll the link when this thing goes live and everything. We'll put it in the show notes and stuff. And but you're just, you're amazing. I love your outlook.
Thank you.
On things. And you have a very positive, non-judgmental, sensible outlook on things. I'm judgy. We already know that. I'm working on it. although I'm having a hard time right now, but there are certain things I'm really, really, really working on. And I don't mean judging people, well, politicians maybe, but not like, regular people. Like I don't look at people and judge them like that. I'm more of a political judger. So,
well, I'm really motivated to enjoy my life. I also feel like my sort of best self is I'm a sunny side up kind of person. And so anytime I start feeling a ton of weight, and that's easy to feel with some of the work that I do. I've done a long time work with anxiety and trauma, and people have been through really bad things, right? And and that's true for all of us. But I really do hold hope both for myself and for other people and for the world. And I feel like that's a nice way to show up in the world. So how I try to help people is also how I try to live my life. So yeah, that's me. It's fun.
That's awesome. I can't wait to hug you in 3 months.
I know. I'm really excited. So.
3 months. I know. And to have like muffins or scones or something. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see whatever it is. Thank you for taking today and putting up with all of the glitches that keep happening. Last question I ask everybody, is what lights your fire?
What lights my fire is actually enjoying the world. So my current favorite thing is hiking and being outside and nature, and it totally lights me up. So
that is awesome.
That and helping people figure out what lights their fire. That's where Self-Help on the Go came from. It's just, how can I want to enjoy my life. I want you to enjoy yours. And if I can help you do that, that's really exciting to me.
You are one of my favorite people for a reason. So thank you. Where can people find you?
Selfhelponthego.com is my website, and that links both to my therapy site and to my speaking site, selfhelponthego.com.
Okay, cool. And she is on a million other podcasts too. I'm not going to be greedy and just say, whatever, but she is, you can find her, and she's amazing. To all of you out there, thank you for hanging in an hour plus. I really appreciate all of you. As you know, I'm on a review hunt. So please go like, share, subscribe, and review. Leave us a review, because the more reviews we have, the more it kind of helps us up in our little ranking. I hope you got a lot out of this episode. Go get Dr. Carey's book. You can get it on Amazon. I promise you, it will change. It will change you, because there are so many things in there that you can literally go right to. If you're having a bad day, if you're questioning something, if your boss is being a jerk, if you have one. I mean, my boss can be a big jerk sometimes. So,
mine too. It's amazing.
I know, right? I said to Heather, my boss can be an asshole sometimes, and she's like, I am not saying anything. So, but really, I appreciate all of you. And until the next time, go out and find what lights your fire. See ya.
Bye, guys.